not? Yes, we are. Here we go. Testing, testing. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn you can't spell advice without vice, which may be a word, which may mean conquered. So you can't spell advice without conquering someone.
And in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am one of your hosts, Scott Jones. Joining me, as always, Mr. Paul Packler. Paul, how's it going?
Well, that intro was so long, we have to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night,
Goodbye,
everyone.
everybody. Time's up. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
I'm very good. I'm very good. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm doing good. Everything's good.
And Scott, you?
I'm good. Guys, we're 3 episodes in, 4 if you count our bonus episode, and we're finally all together.
We did it.
We did it.
We Dora?
No, it's crazy because it's gotten to the point where we would really, I don't know about you, but I would really beat myself up and still kind of do if I miss an episode.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of like, well, there's nothing else I can do. I got to miss the episode. Too much is going on. So it's slowly happening where it's become a little bit of a rarity that we're all 3 together.
Very nice, especially for an episode like this.
Yeah, I'm cherishing these moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you must, I guess, then sure.
Not the episode, Paul. Our time together.
Oh, our time together, of course, of course. We're staring down the barrel of this podcast mortality. We have a season and a half left.
When you put it like that.
Yeah.
When you put it like that, it's party time, boys.
Oh, yeah. This episode, not horrible, which is always a good sign for us.
In all honesty, it's sort of kind of like what the season has been so far with the two Mallory episodes, the 2 Alex and Courtney Cox episodes. This is episode 3 of the season, if you're counting them by half hours.
Mm-hmm.
And in keeping with the same quality. I thought it was an okay episode for Mallory. Kind of weird that they shoehorned Nick in there sort of suddenly without ever mentioning his name before it.
Right.
He really George Costanza's his relationship with Mallory, where he's like, that episode where George goes off and he's like, he yells at his boss and walks out of the meeting, and then he's like, maybe if I go in on Monday, they won't think that I quit.
That's exactly it.
And so Nick is back from New York with his tail between his legs, hoping that Mallory will take him back.
Right.
No one has said a single word about anything.
Yeah.
No.
Now it hasn't addressed it. I think she barely talks to Nick in this episode. Like, he stands right behind her, but I think they may have like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue between them.
Really funny.
Hey,
now the good news is, once again, my blood pressure did not go up because of Brian Bonsall. He was just fine.
There was a couple funny bits that he had and some line deliveries. He was very sarcastic and mean in this episode, which I always love.
He made a face about Alex after an exit on his way out. He made a face. I thought, wow, the kid is so much better. I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved I don't have to because you know what? Last season, I'll be honest with you, gents, it's unpleasant to sit here and rant and rave about the acting talents of a 4-year-old child. And what's even worse is I get paid to do that on the weekends.
To their parents.
To their parents, to rant and rave about how either good or bad their 4- and 5-year-old children are at improvisation, which is unbelievable.
Are kids better at improv than adults because they have no ego? They just go right into it?
There are certain kids who are better because of that, and then there are other kids who aren't socialized enough to follow the rules that you're trying to have them play the game with.
Gotcha.
So that's the first obstacle, is just getting them to give in and follow the rules, as opposed to the child I had this week who the entire TOTS class, which is indeed 5-year-olds, the entire TOTS class, she kept yanking on my pants saying, When do we play Ring Around the Rosie?
Oh. She could at least said like an improv game. That at least would have been more
play
helpful.
Ring Around the Rosie.
Oh my God.
I said, we're not going to get to it, nor will we get to Duck, Duck, Goose. I'm telling you.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Wait a second. I for a second I got Ring Around the Rosie confused with Duck Duck Goose. Ring Around the Rosie, maybe the shittiest game ever? Who is this stupid kid?
Yeah,
And what is a pocket full of fucking posy? What's posy?
Yeah.
Guys,
It's flowers, right?
Right. It's about the bubonic plague. It's a game revolving around the bubonic plague.
Ring around,
Yeah, that's
pocket full of posy. Ashes.
Ashes. We all.
Oh, we all die because the ashes contain the plague. You got to get rid of the ashes.
And the ring around the rosy was how the bubonic plague looked on your arm, like it was the pus marks. Like, it's a horrible game. And it's stuck over centuries. It's ingrained in society now.
That's the most horrible thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, let's jump into it. And we'll talk more about the bubonic plague. But if you're playing along, we are on season 6, episode 3, Dear Mallory, in which Mallory starts an advice column or gets hired to do an advice column. So we're going to start with,
first of all,
we're going to start with Henry's joined us.
Can I just say here? Let's just
hold for editing real quick. Go see mommy, okay?
Okay.
Let me go lock the door.
No, it's fine.
Okay, holding. Okay, we're good.
So here, let me just jump in. So before we start, oh, you know what, Corey? Do you have your headphones by any chance?
No, go get them. They're here somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting the echo thing. There we go.
Oh,
cool. Oh, perfect. That sounds great.
Okay.
So before we start, let's just say this is the heady days of print journalism, where even a penny saver catalog has multiple op-ed and advice columns.
Yeah.
Columns. I mean, this is where you find trucks that don't run that you can scrap, and
right.
And I don't even know what else is in a penny saver at this point.
Futons.
Yes, lots of futons.
Lots of futons.
Storm fridges.
Yeah. So you're saving money and getting advice at the same time. It's kind of a nice combination.
Yeah. I advise you to get a better job so you don't need to save pennies on the dollar.
Right. I advise you to quit being so damn cheap.
Yeah, yeah. So she has apparently interviewed for this job at the Penny Saver for the Dear Blank advice column and got it.
Well,
yeah.
There's the first time they say the name of the column, don't they say the name of the column is Dear Mallory? Because I put down the note. Have they named the column Dear Mallory before? Because when she runs in, she goes, "Mom, I got the Dear Mallory column."
Wow. So she was kind of shoo-in.
She was coming in from a job interview. How did she have the Dear Mallory column before they hired Mallory?
So there's one qualification you need for this job.
The name Mallory.
Mallory.
You don't see a lot of Mallory. So, I mean, she really was just gunning for this the whole time.
Right. I mean, it's almost like it was destiny.
Name Mallory? Do
It was
you?
destiny, I agree. No.
I've never known a Mallory.
I may just have a baby now and name it Mallory just for the fucking hell of it.
I think you should. But before we find out about the advice column, we have a scene with Andy and Jennifer arguing over cake. Like
I love this. I love this whole thing.
It was just
It was good.
It was fine.
It worked. It worked fine, and I loved how they're arguing over cake. Mallory comes in with the advice column, and I really love Justine Bateman in this too, because when they give her the reins to have the lead in the episode, you feel like, oh, Mallory is a well-rounded, thought-out character, and she really brings a lot to it. I wish I could see this more. But she goes over to them and actually gives them really great advice on how to stop, arguing about the cake.
I didn't even think of it before she said it. I was like, what is she gonna say?
I thought it was really smart, and Mom said it was really smart. It was really smart.
It was great. It was really good.
Scott, tell what the plan is.
So they're fighting over the cake. Mallory goes over there and says, Jennifer, you get to cut the cake, and Andy, you get to pick what slice you want. That way, Jennifer it'll be in her best interest to cut it evenly. That's brilliant. I have never thought of that. Bravo, Family Ties writers.
Put that in the parent book.
I am.
Yeah.
I am totally going to remember that.
If Mallory were a Dungeons and Dragons character, she would have an 18 in wisdom. The other thing I like about this initial bit between Jennifer and Andy is she's, let's say, 14, 15 years old, something like that. He's 4 or 5 years old, and they're arguing like they're peers. And really, I don't know why Jennifer is even involved, but that's like what families are, where everyone just kind of hates each other, and you just argue about everything always, right? That's what families do, right?
Yeah. Paul.
Right? Come on, like you would get into a shouting match with a 4-year-old, right?
You do that on a regular basis, don't you, Paul?
I don't have a 4-year-old.
But I can see Paul just walking around the city. Where's a 4-year-old for me to argue with?
Just yell at him. What are you doing eating those rocks for? Anyway.
But I'm kind of with you. It feels like a very family argument. Like to the extent of siblings like that, even if one's older, can be reduced to the level of the youngest one and just argue, even though they're supposed to be the more mature one. It just has. I mean, this feels like kind of what we've been missing from Family Ties. Oh, there's this nice, fun family dynamic, a reality to it.
Yes.
And so Alex comes in and, of course, has to make fun of Mallory writing for the penny saver.
Right there. Where?
You know what? I have to say, Michael J. Fox's hair is terrible.
It's horrible. It's really bad. It's a bad mullet.
Now it's an official mullet.
Yep.
It took about 3 episodes this season for it to be like, wow, you either have a full-on mullet or you're a middle-aged lesbian.
We are hitting that period in the 80s where the mullet was stylish in so many different variations. And it was a bad time.
Bad.
Yeah. Just, he makes fun of Mallory writing for the penny saver. And it seems what slowly starts to happen in this episode is it's Mallory's job, but somehow throughout this episode, she keeps roping in her family to help with this advice column.
I don't know why everything has to be the entire family convention.
Right.
It's a downfall of this particular episode. Had they just made a different plot line for the rest of the family, I think everything would have been solved. But as it stands, by including all of them into Mallory writing and helping people, like when they come over to the house and they have to give advice too, it doesn't make any sense. It kind of falls apart.
Yeah. So what we have set up is we obviously know now that this is going to revolve around Mallory writing for the advice column, which is great. But then we cut to the living room. And Mallory is still, gung-ho about writing for this advice column. And she wants to practice on Alex of giving him advice. And again, Justine Bateman, fantastic in this. Like, she's just so trying to prod him into opening up emotionally.
Do we notice that this is a whole moment that seems like it's a subplot or even a plot, and it goes nowhere?
Yes. Absolutely. This is where I thought we were going to get our conflict in this episode. This is where I was like, okay, this is where it's going. And like we were talking about earlier, we get about 12 minutes into this before we even get a clue as to where this is going. So Mallory reads this letter from a 21-year-old woman who is having a hard time finding a boyfriend, and the description that she wants is someone exactly like Alex. I think even she describes herself as a with a knockout body. She describes herself.
Yeah, she wants someone. She's a 19-year-old girl with a knockout body, and she loves money, and she's looking for a 21-year-old man who also loves money. And Alex is like, slow down.
Yep. And he's like, we got to help this poor woman. And so
he tears out the return address on the envelope and makes a big thing out of having that. And that's the last we hear of it.
It's terrible.
Why?
It was like a Penthouse forum letter where it goes, I never thought it would happen to me, and then that's the end.
That's it, right, exactly. These 3 girls came over, and boy, did we have fun.
And
okay.
And you think for a second, like, okay, so there's going to be some conflict with Alex, going in person to meet this girl, and that's going to be the whole thing. And it's like, nope, that's it. He just puts the address in his pocket.
You know how they in writers' rooms, they sketch out the show on index cards, scene by scene. This scene, this scene, this scene, act 1, act 2, this scene, this scene, this scene. What could they have possibly have written on an index card that made this story go, what happens in this scene? Alex steals a girl's return address in order to hunt her down.
Right. And then the parents come in and derail the scene even further.
Right. But that's the last we hear of the only thing that happens in that scene, really.
And if you were going to break the story, you would say, what is this scene about? Mallory wants to practice. Alex helps her and finds out this piece of information. But finding out that piece of information is important.
Right. And the way it's framed seems like something of significance. It's a lot of business tearing off that address, putting in the pocket. He mentions it to his mom. It's highlighted and then goes nowhere.
And not for nothing, there's a certain irony to all of this, that he's going to try to get something going with this girl. And the first letter that Mallory reads in this scene where she's like, I need to help people, and they read it, and it's from the first love.
Right.
Is about a young 18-year-old girl whose first love is cheating on her with another woman. And that's Courtney Cox's story right now.
What was going on in the writer's room? A lot of backstab. These writers were going through some personal shit.
I'm telling you, and there's another thing here we haven't yet mentioned. They keep on saying in the scene casually and without judgment, Alex is making dinner. A few episodes, there was a whole scene where where the running joke was, Alex is making dinner. Oh my God, that we're not going to have anything to eat. And in this episode, straight face, really and truly, Alex is making dinner tonight.
Yeah, and disappointed that he's not.
Yeah, there's no what's it called when
Continuity?
From one show to the next. Yes, thank you. Continuity. Yeah, what are you doing? Why not remember anything? Write something down.
Surely there's somebody here from last season.
Yeah, and it could be a really funny running gag of Alex attempting to make dinner, not making dinner great. It's something that could always pop up in there. But yeah, Jennifer comes in, like we were saying, with a letter from Mallory. And here's where I was thrown off again. Jennifer comes in with a letter from Mallory, first love, a girl whose boyfriend she believes is cheating on her. Mallory thinks this is the perfect first letter for her column. And she sits down with Jennifer and excitedly speaks out what advice she would give him. And both Alex and Jennifer think it's great advice. Alex, of course, wants to add a mean little bit at the end. But here's where it was a weird transition is, so Mallory goes off to write the letter, and they cut like to a close-up of Jennifer, who's Mallory leaves saying, you know, when you have a boyfriend, you'll ask me for advice. And they cut to Jennifer, and she's like, yeah, sure, I will. And did you think for a second Jennifer wrote the letter?
I thought something was going to be involving Jennifer.
Yeah, I thought, okay, now this is about Jennifer kind of writing a letter to try to get Mallory's advice, but not wanting to say anything.
Scott,
and yet,
that would have been an amazing turn of events.
I know.
Yeah.
And yet we have to wait another half scene before we actually know what the story's about. We still have to wait. We had two possibilities, but no, we're going to dangle a couple of things, never mention it again. But we're really going to tell you, just give us a minute. We'll get to what we really want to talk about.
Right.
You know what, though? That's also a problem with that Jennifer joke, where she's like, yeah, I would totally ask you for advice, is up until that moment, throughout the whole time, from the first scene with the cake and everything, we see Mallory to be not only competent at this job, but really
good.
Yeah,
like preternaturally good at this.
Yes, insightful. Mm-hmm.
And so with Jennifer, because it was like, it's a cheap joke that it was like it's like an actor choice or a directorial choice to make a cheap joke of it. It undercuts the entire what we've seen of Mallory throughout this whole episode.
Absolutely. It was a weird delivery. It felt serious for a second. But I didn't even realize it was a joke until I really thought about it. But yeah, and to go along with your point too of Mallory being really good at it, we also come into this thing is it goes back and forth with Steven and Elise. Do they want her to do this or do they not want her to do this? Because there's moments where it's like, you know what, that's good advice, you do really good. It's like, Mallory, you can't do this anymore because it's getting out of control. Like it really goes back and forth, and that's frustrating.
Yes. And she's supposed to be in college. I mean, this is the same thing that we had with Alex, but, Mallory is supposed to be a full-time college student.
Let's just say it. None of these kids are in college, Paul. They're not in college.
At this point, I would hope that Andy's in college and actually going to class.
Right. And so where do we cut to next, guys? So we cut to...
We go to the kitchen. Yeah. Well, we have Steven at the very end of that scene. Also, Steven is moved by a letter before he starts crying. And now we cut to the kitchen scene. And apparently, like moments later, Mallory is now giving advice out willy-nilly to everybody.
Yes, this is where they bring in her column, and we're finally going to get to what this episode is actually about. Nick, this is where Nick is kind of wedged in, who has like 2 lines.
This is also, if I can be so bold, I think this might be the funniest Mallory is dumb joke from Alex the whole series.
Which one?
I agree.
She goes, Mom, you know what? I think that giving out advice, I'm just really good at it. It's like there's a little voice in my brain that goes, and then Alex says, wow, you could just see for miles around in here.
It's really good.
And the audience, it stops the show. The audience is laughing. And I was like, that was a good joke, guys.
It was a good, solid joke. Yep, I remember laughing when I saw it.
Yep, Michael J. Fox tops it really quickly. It's perfect. It's well delivered. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best Mallory's dumb joke. If they never told another one, I would be happy.
Well, we've said that over and over again.
Indeed. I think it's just stop at this one. Stop at this one.
Yeah.
And the thing that where we get into the conflict of this episode finally is Mallory puts her personal address and phone number in the advice column so people can contact her whenever they need advice. Now, Family Ties writers, we have given you two good options for an episode here. One, Alex goes after the hot girl in the letter, or two, Jennifer is trying to get advice from Mallory from a letter that she wrote that Mallory doesn't know about. Both great options, but you go for this?
Wow. and that is quickly followed by a visit from Buffaloed Bill in a pointless co-star role.
It made no sense. I don't even get the joke why they had to go Buffalo Bill, Buffaloed Bill. Like, what? I didn't get it. I didn't get his thing. I didn't understand Buffaloed Bill at all.
He was creepy, and the first thing I thought was Silence of the Lambs.
Right. I was thinking that too.
And then the phone rings, and then the back door opens, and it's like every last scene of every show that we've ever seen, a queue of people drop by the Keaton home for advice.
And of course, is going on in Columbus right now that these people are having such existential crises.
And again, using the back door, not being polite, and knocking on the front door.
Yeah, that's goes without saying that they really should have gone through the front door. Being complete strangers, traipsing through someone's backyard, not great.
But it is the Keaton household, and it's not. We've seen this before. I think
they take all comers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Keatons are known for it.
Yeah. All right. So on that note, we are going to take a break, and hopefully Mallory can get this kerfuffle settled. We'll be right back. And we're back. Woo!
Oh.
Paul, you said it. Kerfuffle is correct. That's the best way to describe this episode. Ooh, kerfuffle.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's some wackiness ensuing going on right now.
Yeah. It goes from some good points of reality to now we're just going to be wacky.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we're wacky is by sort of expanding this Mallory thing so that she has now spent over the evening talking to over 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
The house is filled with people. There's different stations set up for teen guidance, for love guidance. Alex is sitting under a sign that says "totally nuts."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's towards the end. Right now, she's just answering letters.
She's just answering letters now. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. She has said that she is giving out not only relationship advice, but marriage advice, legal advice. I think she says
surgery. She's performing surgery. She said.
Yeah. This. What the fuck is this column?
That's right.
The writers for Family Ties just learned heightening for the first time.
Yes, and then they take it one more step up by announcing that she has now said that they're opening the house. She's having an open house. Anybody can come for help.
And she's totally embraced this. She's still very much into this. She doesn't, even with all this demand, she's still 100% committed. She has the whole blow up poster of her first column, and she kind of pines to Elise about, "Oh, Mom, you're so lucky you're not in the public eye. These people need me."
Yeah. There are good jokes throughout this episode.
There's some, and very well delivered too. And but it goes back to what Paul's saying. Let's remember, she's in college.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're lucky.
Never once is it mentioned.
No. Not even by Elise when she's like, "Mallory, you got to stop this." She doesn't even say, "Mallory, you got to stop this. You're in college and have grades."
Yeah.
Right at the very top of this open house, we of course get to see Skippy.
Welcome to season 6, Skippy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know something? I am going to say there is a joke that it gets a little bit run into the ground, but when it first starts, it's some of the best Mark Price has done, in my opinion. There's a reaction he gives that everyone starts laughing at, and that starts the joke. It gets run into the ground a little bit, but his initial reaction to it is awesome.
Yes.
And we'll get to it. But yeah, the open house is in full effect. There are, like Corey was saying, there are stations for relationships, for legal. Alex is sitting by a sign that says "just plain nuts."
And the door opens up and in flies Andrea Neff. Now, to introduce a character that's ultimately this important this late in the show is sort of kind of weird because we don't give a shit.
Right.
Yeah, they have to remind you who she even would be.
Yes, absolutely. They have to hook it up to the mention of somebody with a different name in the first act.
Yes.
For your listeners,
Andrea,
she is first love.
Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say she is first love from the first letter.
Yes, and she's played by Jane Addams.
Yeah.
She's been in a bunch of things. Most recently, she was just in the new Twin Peaks season, and she played a great part. She and Albert Miguel Ferrer have a nice, cute relationship together. Albert finally finds love in Twin Peaks. Spoiler alert. We lost Corey. Oh no.
You're
He's
on the
stuck
outside
in the Red Lodge, everybody.
Twin Peaks.
Once again, Paul's endorsement of the new season of Twin Peaks.
Every time we say Twin Peaks, he falls asleep.
I'm kind of with him, Paul.
Get out of here, both of you. It's a trigger. I'm so sorry. But
so it turns out that everything was going great for Mallory up to this point. And her advice was spot on for everybody. But unfortunately, Andrea Neff really wants to return. She's got going to the complaints counter here.
Yeah.
She's trying to return this advice.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And I gotta say, Andrea made me a little nervous. I was kind of nervous her in the scene a little bit.
She seemed a little psychotic.
She seems like the type that's gonna, do something crazy.
Snap.
She's gonna snap, and like I thought she even says at one point, "I'm gonna kill this person." And she points at Skippy. Like, holy shit!
Skippy, for God's sakes.
But you know what? I'll say this though, because she's at one point she's like, you've never had to do this because you're so beautiful to Mallory. Did you have to like go to the prom as the coat check girl? Did you have to do this? And Skippy is standing up being like, yeah, I've done all those things. And now what you would expect from Family Ties is that they would make these two fall in love because they're both losers. And so Skippy gets love just by default because this woman is in trouble. And I was so glad that they didn't go in that direction, that she hates Skippy. I was like, that's great. That's the most woke choice they could have made.
Yeah, and I love how extreme they made it too. It wasn't like, could he get out of here? Could he go away? No, I said, I'm going to kill this person. Like, it was great. But Mark Price, even before they launch into all that, she's like, look at you. You're all beautiful. All of you are beautiful. And Skippy's just sitting on the couch. He goes, he's never been called that before. It's a great reaction that the audience notices and starts cracking up at. It's his best performance. But we come to find, Mallory's advice did not go good for Andrea. The boyfriend didn't like the fact that he was accused of cheating, left her, and now she's just heartbroken and lonely.
And she's 18 years old, so that sucks. But it's hard to tell from what she said whether she accused him or if she was asking him if the boyfriend is just a dick anyway, or who knows.
Yeah. Because you got to think, if you just say, hey, I think you're cheating on me, and you're like, well, fuck you, I'm leaving. That person's
that's
probably
a little
cheating.
bit one. Yeah, that's a little 0 to 60.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to believe that he was looking for this out. So, yeah. And Mallory just can't let it go. She wanted to make everyone happy. And so she's really disappointed that Andrea's leaving, not liking her advice and kind of hating her.
You know, it's funny because remember, Corey, in episode 1 of this season, we talked about me giving the worst advice. And episode 3, we're here. They're already using it as a plot line. Maybe we've reached into the singularity and we're here.
There we go. It's just going to be bad advice.
Wow. If we can help repair this piece of shit over the next year and a half, that would be great.
Like, as we say things out loud, they'll become plot lines in Family Ties. We've done it.
Amazing.
Wow.
That
We
would be
have really altered the time-space continuum.
I think that coming up soon, Alex, and I'm just saying this is a prediction, Alex and Andy will start a lemonade stand, but it gets out of hand. I want to see that happen.
That sounds like a very legitimate plot, Paul.
Yeah, I want to see that.
So we cut from this scene after Andrea Neff's "You're All Gorgeous" rant. We cut to Skippy, Elise, and Steven.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing that they've turned it. It's almost like a Herald, you know, the improv setup from like Second City and everything, where it's like you put characters who weren't in acts 1 and 2 together, so that way they can make a new scene in Act 3. And so they're just putting random combinations of characters. And now he's giving them his problems, and they're trying to, for 2 hours, talk advice to him. And it's just a weird scene at the end of the show.
Right. And you want to go, Stephen, Elise, you didn't sign on to be an advice columnist. You don't have to do this. The whole family's been roped into this. You guys don't have to do this. This was Mallory's thing.
Again, it would be nice if Alex had brought that girl over that he met. Oh, he talks about her, though. He does talk about her.
They do at least reference it, yes.
That they had a date where they were jumping on the table and dancing and talking about Adam Smith and
economics. Yeah. Like the perfect party for Alex. Yeah. And Mallory comes back. She had chased down Andrea, and it didn't go so well. And it was hard to tell. Is she giving up the advice column? Because she was doing fairly well. Just because you have one person it didn't work out for, and you sincerely try to give good advice.
If I quit every time somebody hated my performance, I would have been out of the business by the age of 6.
It's true. It's true. You know, it's like that song Garden Party. You can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. Right. So yeah, it's kind of it's a very vague, because I personally would love to see Mallory continue with this column, because overall she is good. She's good at giving advice. It would be a nice little thing for her to have with the remainder of the show. And
they do a cute monologue where they say that. They said that Stephen says to Mallory that when she was 5 years old, she talked to Skippy's hamsters, so that way the female hamster wouldn't bite the male hamster anymore. And it was a cute monologue. It was just, but the whole point of it was just that Mallory should continue giving advice because she's good at it.
That this is in her wheelhouse, and it was it was nice to see that validated by the parents. Yeah. And then we end on a joke of Mallory's reading a letter, or they're reading a letter of Mallory's, what's supposed to be Mallory's advice, and it's like a quit whining and go out and get a job or something, and it's out. Alex is like, well, you were so busy. So yeah, and then
it's a nice punchline.
Yeah, it was a nice little punchline to end on. Like we've been saying, guys, the jokes were really solid in this episode.
It was just like everything else so far this season. I'm not dreading it. I'm not dreading the next episode. It's just fine so far.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we're sludging our way through this.
No.
Not at all. Well, guys, that seems to be it. So for questions and comments, be sure to email us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com. And if you want updates, you can follow us on Twitter at QTWFT. Each of us is also on Twitter. I'm at Follow Jones.
I'm at Paul Packler.
I'm at Corpep.
And be sure to like our Facebook page. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon at Fanbase Press. Fanbase Press is an online conglomerate of geek media, providing its readers with daily insights and reviews into the geek pop culture spectrum. Be sure to check out everything that they do. We'd like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs the theme song Without Us. Check out all of Perry's music at perryadams.com. We'd like to thank Brian Dillon, Fanbase Press's president, and also the editor of our show. And lastly, Sean Foster, Fanbase Press's graphic designer, who designed our logo. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Sha-la-la-la.
Bye.
Sha-la-la-la.